Who is L? He is undoubtedly the best detective in the world who works on cases unethically by stalking his suspects, confining them for a long period of time, and using mind games to get answers out of them. He feels the need to investigate this way to feed his prideful nature. L takes pride in solving cases effortlessly, and he will go to extreme lengths to identify a suspect. In this video, we take a deeper dive into L's character through analyzing his backstory before he became an investigator, along with his emotional behavior and anxiety-inducing repetitive movements. Now we can find out the very fine details that make up this crazy, obsessive detective that we know as L Lawliet. L is the backbone of geniuses in anime. If you think of one of the smartest humans in anime, a lot of people will say L. His intelligence is far greater than everyone in Death Note's world, and at the age of 8, L was found by Watari and taken to an orphanage known as Wami's house, where only the gifted children around the world get placed there. Although, even though it was a place for gifted children, even L surpassed expectations very quickly, so Watari took him out to assist him in cases which he quickly solved with ease. He eventually gained a reputation around the world to be one of the greatest detectives without being in any corporations. Because he was a child, it would be illegal to take him in. When L grew up to an adult, we see him as, in the anime, very slim, with messy black hair all the way up to his neck, with clear dark shadows forming below his eye, creating the eye bag aesthetic as a result from being an insomniac. He's famously known for wearing his own white long sleeve shirt and a blue jeans in almost every panel we see him in. He also tends to be hunched over while sitting or walking. And to be honest, he's always been more secretive, being the one to listen more than speaking in the room, where he would observe and take in information to further his knowledge. An example of this is when the Japanese task force went to take on the case of Kira's killings. L went by Ryuzaki to hide his identity, being more secretive, as this came in handy because at the end of the day we never truly confirmed L's first name or last name, so being secretive helped L a lot. L tends to second guess every information he gets when presented with this case. This is because everything revealed to him may or may not be true, and one slip up can cost his life and many others, which he knew from the very start. From the beginning, L knew he would be risking his life taking on this case. With mysterious murders, random attacks all around the world, and with no evidence of these strange events, L was still up for the challenge. We see this in the very beginning. He's not afraid to try tactics to further gain more knowledge about the cases he deals with, such as setting up a death row inmate, Lynn L. Taylor, to pose as a reporter in order to draw out Kira, which is only televised in Japan, which worked as he died shortly from a heart attack. And just like that, L simply narrowed down his list from the whole world being a suspect to just Japan. Not many people understand just how hard this case was for L to conceal his identity while working on the case with Kira by his side all the time, which meant he leaked information to Light, meaning that Light would always have the upper hand. Not to mention, L didn't even know what he was even up against. I mean, if you were in L's scenario, who would have thought that you would have been up against a book where you write someone's name inside and they suddenly die? Nevertheless, by using information, disinformation, and analytical knowledge, he led people on by luring them into a false sense of confidence that made them think that they were off the hook. An example of this is when he uses percentages to say how likely someone is to be a suspect in this case. He would say 5%, but in reality, he was most confident that that person who was around 5% is truly the suspect. Same thing he did with Light. L told Light that he was among the least likely suspects within the case, but in reality, L knew the whole time Kira and Light were related in some way and had to prove it. As the writer of the series said about L's tactics, the truth is he's a liar. Since this is a character analysis, we have to go more in depth about his character, because L is more than just a man with all skill points spent on knowledge. He loves to eat sweet foods like desserts and candy, which he eats only using his one thumb and finger. He also sits very differently than others in the anime, sitting with both feet on the chair. Actually, lots of viewers notice this right away when they do see L. It actually adds to his mysterious persona. He also stated that if he didn't sit like that, his reasoning ability would drop by 40%. Interestingly enough, that the way he sits impacts his decision making. He also does very normal fidgeting, like constant finger biting, chewing, and slouching. And don't forget, he also puts his feet on the furniture. All of these tie back to anxiety or symptoms of being nervous, but L is quite the opposite. He is more mellow and laid back. Maybe that's something he's learned to do, hiding his emotions, so he won't make any irrational decision. So he ends up fidgeting to let his emotions fade away in the back of his mind. Now, back to his genius brain. With his status and rank as the world's greatest detective to ever live, he does have a sensitive pride just like Light because of how much pressure he puts on himself to succeed in cases he's taking on. He pushes himself to drastic measures like torturing Misa and confining Light for a lengthy amount of time in the Yutsuba arc. We actually start to see his pride shine through a little bit at the end before his death, when he starts to overcalculate and panic when he realizes that he doesn't have this case under control. And to be honest, it felt like Kira was getting away from him. And of course, L didn't like this. He had to go above and beyond the human mental capacity and ended up using torture methods on Light and Misa at the end. And just by that alone, you can see how far Kira had pushed L, to the point that L's pride starts to take some hits. He had lost the case essentially and was running out of time, so he had nothing left to do but resort into torture methods to prove that he was right, to prove that Misa and Light had been related or connected to Kira. In fact, all this time studying and worrying about Kira, L's life had become unbearable as his body started to give up on him. He used to eat sweet foods, but he remained underweight because his brain is the most used organ in his body and burns the most calories, so eating sugary foods throughout the anime is essential for L to maintain the minimum weight to remain somewhat healthy. L actually wasn't unathletic all his life though. When he stayed in England for 5 years, he was a junior England champion for tennis and started to get into martial arts but discontinued it after leaving England. In chapter 38, we actually see L giving a kick to Light straight in the chin, proving his martial arts background. Speaking of background, what ethnicity is L? Well, the creator Sugumi Oba responded and said, "I think of him as quarter Japanese, quarter English, a quarter Russian, and a quarter French or Italian, like somewhat of that." Oba also confirmed the genius of L, noting that he is indeed the smartest in the Death Note world, not because the plot requires it to be Kira, but his personal views, as he kind of sees L as slightly evil, which kind of says a lot about L's character. Well, that's the whole point of this analysis, right? To truly get to understand L. And that wraps the video up about the character analysis of L. And guys, I just want to say to join the Discord down below. We're trying to build a community there, so it'd be greatly appreciated if you guys join it and you guys can talk to me and other people that are in the server. Also, subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot. Thank you.